All right, what I'm gonna try to do here is I'm trying to find an efficient way to make these smooth, my 3D prints, without a ton of sanding. So I'm using an epoxy. I've covered a 3D print in epoxy. And what I want to do right now is I'm just going to give it a light sand with this so I can add a type of paint to it and see if I can save myself some filler primer, sanding, primer, dry, and then start into the coats of paint. That could wind up saving me potentially 10 to 15 hours of time just based on dry time and then reapplication. So right now I'm just kind of lightly, it gives a nice shine to it, the epoxy does, so maybe if you have a coloring underneath it, it can also produce even a more efficient without having to sand it and put another color on there. But for me, I want something other than white. I'm just kind of trying to make it a little abrasive here so we can essentially get some paint to stick. I can feel it kind of texturizing a little bit now instead of just being completely smooth. I'm not getting real scientific with it at the moment. I'm just trying to see what I can do the most efficiently. I definitely know how to like smooth something to a mirror finish or near mirror finish. But again, I'm trying to see how fast I can produce a result that maybe I couldn't do as quickly the other methods that I know. It's just kind of practicing the technique. I feel like technique is really what is the major difference between a hobbyist and a professional. Okay, it's a little rougher now. Originally my mask cracked right there, and I thought I put enough epoxy to hold it back together, but it looks like that's kind of springing back up on me. But it's not really a, again, it's just practice mask, so it's not really a huge deal. But if I was going to try to utilize this for some type of customer or advertising, I may go a step further. Or selling, you know. What I want to do is just take some alcohol and wipe it off. Just figure out how to get some of those dust particles off. It looks like actually I just learned something. It looks like me actually adding a little bit of that alcohol which caused the epoxy to get sticky again. So I'm going to have to wait a little bit for that to dry. Maybe in the future I'll just kind of wipe it down with try diluted alcohol or just water to get the dust off, just rinse it off. That's usually what I do. Is now I found that I can kind of get this rub them off to spread in an interesting way if I just do a dab of acetone. And I'm going to try that. You know, again, I'm just exploring on this mask. This is not like an item that I'm doing for a customer thing. I'm just practicing. So I just poured a little acetone over here. Let's see if I can get it to spread. It kind of looks like it's, well, if I can get it there. Looks like it's not really, well, it's spreading it a little bit. It's smearing it. It's actually not as hardcore as I thought it would be. I'm going to pivot back to just applying this, and then maybe I'll come back later and dabble with that some more. It's just a quick and dirty method that I'm trying. Trying to get the whole mask covered. I do really think that the black would be a better choice for the background. I think we might have more happy accidents. And this is taking a ton of this. I get miserly too a little bit with my paints and materials. If something's taking too much of it, I start having a little bit of anxiety. I don't know why I do that, because, you know, it's really, at the end of the day, not that expensive. It's not laying on there, getting the grooves as much as I want, so I'm going to try to pivot to a sponge now and just kind of blot it on. That usually will get in these spaces that's shining the white through. A lot of times I'll use gloves to do this too, so I just don't wreck my fingers, but I'm just kind of trying to knock it out right now. Something that's been sitting on my workbench for a while, and I'm just tired of looking at it. I think I need to let that rub and brush maybe dry a little bit, because it's kind of just being pushed around up here. Down here to this chin. You can see right there with the epoxy was kind of thick and it's settled in there. So that may come through, but it may also kind of create little craters that make it look more metallic. Dab, 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 dab. I think I kind of like the, yeah, I kind of like that, the texture that's creating, just doing this more instead of rubbing it smooth. It does make it look a little more metallic. I'm just gonna go with that for right now. I really like that eye compared to this business. Guess we'll put Rub and Buff on the shopping list. It's almost, it was not a perfect mask. It's just something that I've been exploring with, and I think it could have printed it a little smoother, but honestly, between that and just me kind of doing a slapdash finish with the epoxy. I mean, I tried to do it smooth. I think I needed to do it thicker. All that together, though, does kind of give it a hammered metal look, I think. Maybe kind of a Roman mask or something there. Or maybe some type of cyber electronica. Ooh, it's a little thick down there. Just trying to get the white areas covered. I usually feel like my job is done if you can look at something that's cosmetic, that's not supposed to be plastic, and if it's supposed to resemble metal, if it looks like metal. And if somebody comes up to me and says, that doesn't look like a 3D print, or that looks just like metal, that always makes me feel really good. It makes me feel like I nailed my process, and that's why I like to practice. So right now, I definitely think it's the sponge method. It's much better for what I'm doing. But I do think it's also important to consider your overall material you're trying to make it look like. If you're just trying to do accents, if you're actually trying to make it look like complete metal or something like that. Whoa. I've always, I haven't done it yet, but I want to explore clear coating rub and buff. I've read and researched that it'll just make it dull and it'll kind of lose its luster. But I also really want it to be sealed, I know that it has, from my understanding, it's kind of like a waxy ingredients that are in it that help it produce the result that it has. Okay, let's get these nostrils done. May have to get a different brush to get all the way up in there to the sinuses. Eee. Another thing you can do is like get paint on the end of a paintbrush and put a dot in a crevice and then just come back with a little bit of water on your brush and dab it in there, and it'll kind of make it ooze and fill in a real tight space like that. That was a pretty cool technique that I figured out when I was doing my Stormtrooper mask. And I may do that for that in there to just give a little bit of contrast and cover up the white, maybe even in the nostrils. Because it's kind of hard to get that shrub and buff down there, at least with this tool here. I'm just trying to smear a little bit, try to get a few more cracks and crannies. Again, I think if it was black underneath, this would really look better and have a better contrast. But I printed it in white. And see, that's why you wear gloves. Again, I think that if that was black in there, it would just be a natural gradient really to there. You know, because when you're wearing it, it kind of creates a little bit of a shadow anyways. Instead of me really having to work extra hard to get rid of the white. All right, so that was, no, it's like 10 minutes. Now I could do definitely some, this is just, again, like this roughness here. That's because I didn't smooth the epoxy out. Now it doesn't really bother me for this mask, and I kind of think it also adds depth and character to the mask. Like maybe, you know, it could be some kind of relic. You could actually make it look dirtier and put it on and, you know, weather it a little bit. Weather these grooves so it looks more intentional back here even. I usually will do a little bit of research before I mix a different material I'm not used to painting on, but I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to try to just add a little contrast to the mask, and it's actually going to be on top of the rub and buff. It could be a complete failure, and it could be really interesting results. So what I need to do is I need to get some water, and I'm going to use my my makeup brush here to do a little bit of slap chop. I always have a hard time getting rid of cans, so it's actually a salmon can, because I just find like I can use them for so many things just like this. I don't even have to buy something or use my dishes that I eat out of. You know, it'd be kind of ridiculous, but you know, sometimes in a pinch. Okay, now I've got a lot of water on that, and I need to get it dry, and I need to not get all my rub and buff in it either. So I'm just kind of blot it out some. Get some of this black on there. And I'm just kind of, don't want it to be real rich on the mask, so I'm just trying to roughen this up a little bit. Now usually, I need to add a little bit more water to get it in the creases, but I usually will try to do dark first, then light. So really I should have dark, then the gold, but maybe I can do a little bit of a wash and see if I can bring some of this out. I'm just going to touch that just a little bit. Okay. I'm not disappointed with that. I know that's better than I thought. Okay, I'm just going to do it around the edges for now and get in these holes. Not wearing gloves. I should be. He's got a beard. Not going to stick with the beard. Just saying. So I'm going to kind of darken some of these areas. And I'm thinking like cheekbones where light would hit, where it may be darker. And also I'm just trying to fill in some of those crevices. All right. Still need to do that mouth. Again, I don't have a formula here. I am just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. So some of it's going to be ugly. And I'm trying to see what I like about some of this and what I don't like about it. I can tell you that it's kind of getting, hey, right there into the water too. That's all right. It's getting an interesting burnish, and I think I kind of like that result a little more than the blotting. I'm going to clean this off just a little bit more. I'm going to go a little water here. Don't want to go crazy with the water on the mask. Sorry, I took it off the camera. So you get too crazy and it starts pushing it off completely in the mask. So it'll just be sticky still. So. I don't think I should have added the water like I did. He's kind of making the mask look a little richer or antiqued, I think. These are the easiest projects because you're not trying to replicate anything in existence, like maybe a Star Wars Stormtrooper helmet. It has to be very exact because everybody in the world knows what that looks like. But this, you could say, it's an ancient relic mask or something like that. If you like ancient Roman stuff or something and you want to decorate or just give some kind of interesting flair to a project, you could use that as inspiration. And you can get that from this. You just gotta kind of keep working with it and not get frustrated and not expect perfection. And eventually you'll learn your material by practicing and finding new ways to use it. And then you could produce quicker results. I think I need to let it dry a little bit because you see it's bubbling up. I'm not very happy with that. So I need to I think I need to do that. We're going to try to get a different brush here. See if I can soak up some of that water and help with that mess that I made. But I do like how it's getting in the crack right there. That's desired to cover up some of that white and to add some depth. So let's go with that. Let's see if we can fill in that crack easily, and I'll go over that method I was talking about. All right, so I got that wet a little bit. Now I'm gonna come down here and get some paint. Okay, just do a couple little dabs in the mouth, right? Can't paint the whole mouth. This brush is pretty good for that, but what I want to do is see if I can get it to flow more. So we just kind of fill that up a little bit, it'll start flowing in the mouth. You'll even probably see it come out the sides. Well, that didn't flow as much as I wanted. That's okay. See how it came out there? That's what I was trying to get it to do over here. But I've kind of washed the top out doing that too. So come back over here, add a little paint. Go ahead and do this while I'm up here. Maybe even that area. I'm being very sloppy with this because, again, I'm not trying to be perfect. But I am going to come back and touch it up with that dry brush. And then you just kind of clean it up. I think I'm doing this darker paint is almost giving it a bronze look. So that's drying out, and that's, I want it to be like real obvious that it's painted, so, you know, weathered. So I'm gonna try to smooth some of that, or not smooth, but just break it up. I think the lighter areas you usually like the forehead, the nose. You gotta think about where the light lands. And naturally where your face may be darker. I know I'm real dark underneath my eyes. But you also gotta think the material, it's not skin, it's kind of supposed to be an antique metal. So where would, over time, where would sand or mud and corrosion get into? Just saying the word corrosion made my mind jump to thinking, you know, if you had even did like a copper look, you could fill these voids in with something that's more of a patina green. That would be kind of cool. All right, we're gonna let this dry here in a second. I'm just getting the nostrils again. Now I think that's added much more character than it had before. I actually am getting kind of happy with this. Now, remember, I've got rub and buff underneath this, and I've never done that, so I'm skeptical if this wash will stay on it without wiping off easily. If I notice that it's wiping off easily, I may have to see if I can come up with a way to seal it. But if it's not going to be out in the rain, you know, which I don't see why it would be. I guess if it was a ASA material or something like that, it could be, but it should look kind of cool on the wall as decorative. Of course, I haven't painted any of that, but I don't need to spend that kind of effort on it. What I'll probably wind up doing is just doing a quit black or something. Hear my dryer in the back, or my washer in the background. It's mad because I have a huge load of laundry in there that's unbalanced. I have a bad habit about that. Okay, I'm getting a little more grace, or oh, where's my words? Gratuitous. With that amount of paint that I got up his nose right now, it's gonna come to the side. It's all right. I'm gonna wipe some of it off. I just need to get those areas. Again, see, I kind of got the too thick there, so I'm gonna add a little water. I just kind of keep doing this until I get a result I want. You can kind of consult, you know, different color palettes and stuff that work together, or look at how shading and shadowing works and get an idea of how your paint would be applied. Again, I did this completely backwards, I feel like, but I do know that I can create a wash over the top of something like this, or weathering effect. To my understanding, it should be dark then bright, but I did bright and then dark. I broke my own rules today. All right. Up in there a little bit. don't want to see any white on this side. You see any white? Almost, yeah, right in there still, huh? Let's really get it in there. Let's just get crazy with it. So I tried to be real gentle with it. I'm trying to go crazy town with it and really fill that in. Kind of looks like a black blood. I'm wanting to learn to practice with weathering more. I haven't done much of that. I have a tendency with my art projects to keep messing with it, and then I like mess it up. So I have to be real careful about that. You know, good is good enough. I've got a little bit of perfectionist in me. And then to keep messing with it and keep messing with it, and eventually it'll either be done or I've ruined it. I was real bad about that with 2D painting. I would have something really good, and then I would start messing with stuff, and it would come out just one blob of colors. And I just kind of was thinking how well this looks. I kind of wonder, like, I really like the gloss look at that. And I like how the dots are fitting into those grooves. You could maybe put a gloss coat over the top of this and really keep that shine. I haven't really painted it over rub and buff, but we might try that after this dries just to see the result. Again, this is whole exploration for me right now, because I like to form techniques. You know, I read a lot about people's techniques, but I also want to come up with some of my own. I wonder what we would call this technique. Firing from the hip. Firing from the hip rub and buff technique with acrylic paints by NWAMAKER. No time to lose. I think I'm gonna have to wait till that dries, because that white right there is driving me nuts, but it's just kind of pushing it around. Okay. That looks far better than I expected, honestly. We'll let this dry, and I'll come back in a bit. So this is dried a little bit. It's definitely got a darker, dirtier look to it now that I weatherized it. I kind of just was thinking that I want to maybe get some bright spots, so I just have water on the tip of this, and I just kind of want to hit these areas to kind of clean off some of the weathering, so it basically has a little bit more of contrast. So I'm going to try to do that here. Nothing too crazy, but something to kind of wipe off a little bit. Boy, every time I see that clear on there, I just think maybe I need to go over it with a clear coat. But right now, I'm just going to wash. I'm cleaning up some of the wash that I did on it. Don't get too crazy. I don't want to over clean it either, you know. I think I might have rubbed off some of the rub and buff right there. May have to come back over that. So if I can keep a clear coat on it, it would have a really cool, I think, shine to it. I may wind up trying to just dab a bit of that on here to finalize it. But I'm just still kind of exploring. I've backed off a little bit of that wash so it's just not so darn dingy all around the mask. I do want it to be kind of dirty in some areas still, of course. But just trying to brighten up some areas of it. I'm going to come back in here and touch that up just a little bit as I wound up wiping stuff off, rubbing buff off. So masks kind of look like this before. There are two different masks, but just a little bit of different shape, but finished the same way. Well, I couldn't resist the idea of putting clear coat on this. We're going to see how it works. It really looks a lot, it looks more bronze from my end than it does actually through the video. But I want to go ahead and try some of the clear coat. I just want to have a little bit of a shine. A little prime coat there. Don't want to get crazy with it. Okay, that's enough for now. Well, I have to say that I'm quite pleased with the result of the clear coat. So this is kind of what the mask looked like before we did all our work. And this is the clear coat that we decided to do last night. Again, I've never really clear coated rub and buff. I can see how it slightly lost the shine, but it definitely has the kind of the bronze result that is quite appealing in my opinion. So there you have it. We were just kind of exploring the process of using these different materials and seeing the outcomes. I like to do that a lot. When I 3D print or decide to paint something so I can further increase my repertoire, and I appreciate your time in watching this, and if you'd like, go ahead and subscribe and maybe give me a like. I'd be interested in any comments that you may have on your processes or efficiencies that you've found when post-processing your 3D prints and using these materials.